let's get started with your top 5 pitches of the week. Who do you have? What do you have up first for me?
I believe we have Jordan Hicks up first with
Yes.
a crazy 101 mile an hour two-seamer / sinker. Do you like calling them two-seamers or sinkers?
I like calling it a sinker just because it sounds more intimidating than a two-seamer. His also has his sinks. I mean, there is a difference between a two-seamer and a sinker. A two-seamer just kind of runs, not just kind of, it's miserable to face. It runs a little, has some ASR on it, but a sinker actually sinks. And to say that Jordan Hicks has a sinker when it's 101 is absolutely mind-blowing to even say.
Oh, and especially this. I mean, look at the way that pitch moves. It's like magic. And this absolutely does sink. I mean, look at that thing just break down as well as break arm side. That is filthy.
That is filthy. All right, Jordan Hicks was first. Next up, you have Shane McClanahan. Talk a little bit about what you saw from him this week.
Oh, this is a crazy 100 mile an hour fastball with a ton of arm side run. And this thing, as opposed to a sinker, looks like it's rising. I mean, doesn't that look like it's rising?
It does.
I mean, I know they don't rise.
They technically don't, but even in the box it does. I used to hit lefties really well. I loved facing lefties, but the one spot that got me was fastballs up and away, which I struggled with. And it's not easy to take because it does. If it's running, it looks like it's taking off because it's moving away from you. And you can see it here if you're watching on YouTube as opposed to just listening. We're showing Rob's tweet as well. And this pitch is technically running away from Mike Trout, but being a right-handed hitter, it does kind of like, it just takes off and running away. It seems like it's rising. So you're right. And the fact you said this is 100 miles an hour.
That is 100 miles an hour. And if Mike Trout looks bad on it, I mean, come on, that's a nasty pitch.
So let's just all hope and cross our fingers that Shane McClanahan is okay and that this shoulder impingement is not a huge deal going forward, because what he's been doing this year has been unbelievable, and the Cy Young caliber season, the stretch run we're about to get with Justin, Shane McClanahan, and Dylan Cease is great, and I hope both of the first two are okay. Justin is okay, won't be out super long. Hopefully McClanahan isn't either, and Dylan Cease is just unbelievable. I'm sure we'll be talking about him a lot in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's one of my favorites to watch. So is Shane. Like this bugged me. I hated seeing him get hurt because
I know,
he's one of the best guys.
I thought it was going to be, well, we don't exactly know yet, but Kevin Cash came out and said he was hopeful. It didn't look good, Rob, in the bullpen. Like, he was emotional. He looked like he was a little distraught, and when a pitcher does that, you kind of know. Like, you know as a pitcher when something's wrong, so hopefully he's okay because it didn't look great, right?
Oh, no, and I was emotional too, but there was no camera on me, so.
Right. So he is on the IL now, 15 days there. Justin is also on the 15-day IL, so hopefully that's speedy recovery for both. Next up for you this week, you have Brady Singer. What do we got from him?
Well, I love front door two-seamers. I mean, it's one of my favorite pitches, and Marte really makes this. I mean, him jumping out of the way of this is absolutely fantastic. Like, that's what you want out of a pitcher, to make a hitter feel scared like that.
Does part of your pitches of the week have to do with the batter's reaction, or are you like, it has to, right?
It has to. Like, I mean, a pitch could be nasty, and if a batter doesn't react, doesn't swing, or hits the ball, it makes it less exciting. So yeah, absolutely. And that reaction is fantastic. Not as good as a reaction he had, what was it, a couple years ago, where the sort of the year where he just, I think Miguel Castro threw one and he fell on his face. That was my favorite of all time.
Was Sword started by you, or was that elsewhere?
It started by me, but it's from Benchwarmers. So for everybody, you know, basically the line was don't chop at it. It's not a sword. But I changed it to be basically any really bad swing.
Yeah,
it's a sword.
Yeah. I can talk a lot. I can talk a lot about really bad swings and swords. So no, I talk down about myself a lot here. I actually wasn't that bad of a baseball player, I promise. So
dude, a heck of a first pitch before we get, like, I saw that. You did a great job. in Japan. I mean, that was fantastic.
Thank you, by the way. You know, we need a pitching ninja breakdown of my first pitch, you know? So let me tell you about that first pitch real quick. I don't know if you have done it often or if you've gotten to do it in a major league stadium or professional stadium, but the nerves really start to kick in. Now, I pitched in D1 in college. I've pitched on a professional field in front of a lot of fans, but it's just different when you throw a first pitch because it's not really like normal to go out and throw like hard. Like if I throw hard, I will throw a pitch, you know, right now probably around 80. So it's like not many people are doing that, but I kind of have to do that or else you're just going to half-ass the effort and you're going to choke it into the ground or something weird can happen. So I just committed and threw it. And who knows, there's a batter. I didn't know there'd be a batter for the first pitch in Japan. They really threw me for a wrinkle there when they sent out their starting left fielder.
I thought that was awesome. I followed your whole trip because I am big into Japanese baseball generally. Mm-hmm. And have been to some of the games out there, and I just loved it. I thought your tour was fantastic.
Thank you.
Not the brown nose, but it's true. I really did.
The baseball in Japan is special. I will say that. I'm wearing a Yokohama Bay Stars jersey right now as we speak, awesome. Honestly. So next up, you have Jimmy Herget. What we got from old Jimmy Herget? I faced him. He's a nightmare in the box.
I know. It seems like every time I'm on here, I feature Jimmy Herget because I knew of that story, but I didn't know that was going to happen. But look at this. Look at his breaking ball he throws. I'm not sure if he calls this his curveball or his slider, but Springer's going to need a longer bat to be able to hit that. That's all I know. That ball's well into the other batter's box, and he's just so glitchy, the human glitch. That's what he is, right?
Do you know if he's doing it often in the big leagues? Because when I faced him when he was in High A in Daytona, and he's a nightmare because he has the same stuff. He had the same stuff he has now, but he was doing a lot of timing disruption things, a lot of hesitation. Does he do a lot of that now still or no?
He does occasionally. I've definitely seen him do it and featured it. So how do you deal with that as a hitter? Like you're dealing with a guy who's herky-jerky anyway, and then he messes with timing, has all this nasty stuff. He's basically creating multiple pitches out of one pitch by messing with timing too. Like how do you deal with that?
I'm honestly surprised that we don't see it more because it really does take things from, let's say a guy has 4 pitches. If he's messing with timing, that's essentially like 8 pitches, and you don't know what the other 4 are because you don't know what the timing is. So what you really have to do is basically go into like you have to cut down. If you're a leg kick guy, it's a nightmare. You have to cut down on the leg kick. You almost have to turn it into like a 2-strike approach, but it's a nightmare to face. I never liked it. Add on top of that his disgusting stuff. He's the human glitch, as you call him. So that is very true, and he's not a lot of fun to face in the box. So I like that. That was a disgusting slider. It looks like George Springer up the plate. He had no chance there. So next up, you had Brusdar Graterol. What do you got from him?
We've got a wicked sinker, 2-seamer. Look how much this thing runs. And he basically gets a little tip of the hat here from McCutchen. And Graterol is so cool because it looks like he's doing this in his sleep. Like it is basically me throwing BP, except when it comes out of my hand, it's like 55 and it comes out of his hand, it's like 100. But look at the movement on that. That's crazy.
I've always been impressed by him because you're right. It looks like he's not trying. And then not only is it 100+ miles an hour, it's moving all over the place. And it's always been so interesting to me, just like, and he seems to take it into another level in the playoffs. It's just, he's unbelievable. I don't feel like we talk about him enough, and he's one of the first guys that I remember thinking, like, this guy's throwing 101, and it's just falling off a table as a sinker, and that is just the most unfair thing that I've seen in a long time. So I like that out of you. Brusdar Graterol. Next up, you have a player that I'm a fairly big fan of, Rob. So, I'm a big fan of his. You have Shohei Ohtani on here, so let's talk a little bit about Shohei.
And again, I didn't throw this in there because I knew I was going to be on. Like this is legit. Like he just makes stuff up, and he added this sinker to his arsenal, his already deadly arsenal. And this is a 97-mile-an-hour sinker with really some sick movement on this. I mean, look at that thing just drop and run. That is a high-end sinker from a dude who didn't throw a sinker up till like a few weeks ago.
That's the most remarkable thing here to me. And when it comes to Shohei, you know, I don't think I talk enough about Shohei Ohtani on this show. I think I could do it a little more, so I'm glad we're talking about him here. But, you know, everyone talks about the pitching and the hitting, and yeah, it's great. I could go on about that for days. But the fact that he just in the middle of the season pulled out a new pitch, just invented a pitch that he's never thrown before, and it's a sinker in the upper 90s. I mean, that is remarkable. Have you, and this is, you might not know the answer to this, and you might not have you heard him talk about this at any point? He just made this up. Has he talked about this pitch yet?
I think he did mention it the first time he used it. He said like he wanted to just incorporate it in there, and he thought it was a good time. Yeah, I know. Like, come on, this is literally a high-end upper 90s sinker of a guy who has an unhittable slider and an unhittable splitter, and who throws 100. Like, I don't think I really don't think we talk about his pitching enough, because he legit has one of the best stuff in the major leagues. Like, I'm not saying he's the best pitcher. I'm saying he's got some of the best stuff, and he's arguably among the best pitchers without a doubt.
You know, I don't disagree. He is a Cy Young caliber pitcher. Do I think he wins it this year? No. In fact, I hope he doesn't, because I hope my brother does. But his stuff is certainly amongst the top in the game. He has a Cy Young caliber arsenal. He has the potential to win one in the future. That's how good of a pitcher he is. We're not just talking about a guy that is a hitter and, oh yeah, he also pitches. No, this is a Cy Young caliber pitcher, and he's absolutely dominant. And he's just making up pitches on the fly, and it's not just your normal pitch. It's a sinker at 97 miles an hour, which is ridiculous. You have a couple of honorable mentions for me. And first up, you have AJ Minter, friend of the podcast. So I'm starting to think, you keep saying you're not putting guys on here just for me. I'm starting to think, Rob, that you are.
I don't think he would like this, though. Maybe he would. But this is fantastic. He fell down after throwing, which is awesome, like this follow through. And then I paired him up with Johnny Cueto doing the same thing. And this is just magic. Like, I think this is beautiful.
I think it's beautiful as well. And I think he had some fun with it. How can you not have some fun with it? It happens. It's probably the most embarrassing thing that can happen on the mound when, you know, a spike gets caught in the dirt, and or you just don't find your landing and you trip and you fall. So this is honestly, and this is no knock on the other stuff you do, this is some of my favorite work of yours, when you take something like this, you do it into something else, or when you take something from another sport, like the basketball throw off the backboard last year. I love when you do stuff like this. So this one was a lot of fun. So Rob, thank you for coming on, AKA the Pitching Ninja. Hopefully, I would love to have you back on in the future, and we can continue to talk about your top 5 pitches of the week on here. Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.